Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Leveraging Adobe Acrobat Services, or as I like to call it, and marketing completely approves, doing cool stuff with documents. Although I typically say a different word than stuff, but I won't today because I'm going to be on my best behavior. Um, Before I get started, if you want a copy of this slide deck and all the demos, that is the repo URL up there. I literally committed stuff about 10 minutes ago based on some quick tweaks I made this morning. As a bit of a warning, I use one repo for all of my talks on this particular topic. So there's a lot of slide decks, there's a lot of demos. If you have any trouble at all, finding anything, just reach out and I will be happy to tell you or to tell you where stuff is. So I am Raymond Camden. I am a senior developer evangelist for Adobe, focused on Acrobat services APIs. Although I've been doing a lot lately with our Photoshop APIs as well, and other APIs coming soon. You can find me on raymondcamden.com. And if you have any questions at all about this or anything at all, you are welcome to reach out. I'm on all the socials. I'm not going to bother listing every account. You can find me. Quickest way to reach me is to just drop me an email. I love to get your emails. I love to get your questions because all that just turns into more blog posts, and you help me make my blog a better place. So definitely reach out. So Acrobat services. I just had a cat walk in, and another cat's angry. So if you hear growling, it's not me. It's Monday morning. I'm not growling yet. So Acrobat services at a high level falls into two main things. The first is going to be viewing and doing more with PDFs on the web. This will be our 100% free solution. The other side of that is that we have a crap ton, and that's official marketing speak, of APIs related to manipulating PDFs on the server. And there's 1,000 different verbs or actions that you could do with your documents. This is not free, but we have a free tier, and I'll give some information about what that means in the future. So let's start off with just talking about the free part, the viewing part, and that is going to be with our Adobe PDF embed library. So this is a JavaScript solution for viewing PDFs on the web. So it's 100% client-side type solution. It gives you much greater control over the experience. As you know, browsers for a while now have had PDF rendering baked in, and they do a good job. I think especially Microsoft Edge does a good job rendering PDFs. Unfortunately, what they do is that they take over the entire screen. So if you wanted to do anything in context or have any kind of integration, you can't do it. We also provide multiple different viewing types. So there's different types of PDFs out there. If you are like a B&B type thing and have like a brochure, a little 2-3 page glossy thing, the way that you'd want to read that online or look at that online would be different than a 100-page documentation or exciting legal brief or thing of that nature. So we recognize that and provide different ways of viewing the PDFs. We also give you hooks into the document, so you can do interesting things like if the user were to select text, so you can recognize that. If you wanted to automatically change to a different page based on anything, we give you those type of hooks to do stuff with that. And again, this is free. Now, I will say it is free, and that means there is no paid support for that. You only have the kind of voluntary community type level support for that. That is something that we recognize may be an issue, and we may have changes to that in the future. So as a demo, in case you aren't aware, I am using a web-based presentation framework called Reveal.js, and it's HTML and JavaScript based. And I actually embedded a PDF into here. And what you will see is that this should be incredibly similar to what you get with Adobe Acrobat or Acrobat Reader. it is the same experience. So you can do things like markup and add comments. This needs more cat post. I can do searching. I could do zooming. Again, this is a kind of complete PDF reading experience, completely embedded. You can see my header on top, my navigation on the bottom. It's all in line. I can also save from here as well. And again, all built into a web page. So in terms of how it's done, we require you to get a key, which is kind of lame, and I'm trying to make that better as well, but it's free. So you go to our website, you give us all your personal data, and then we give you a key. Now, one big note on this, keys are going to be host specific. So if you're working on raymondcamden.com and you have a development environment, dev.raymondcamden.com, and you have a staging environment, staging.raymondcamden.com, if you specify www.raymondcamden.com, your key is not going to work in dev.raymondcamden.com. And we only give you one domain or one host per key. So you can either make multiple keys or just do raymondcamden.com, and then all these subdomains will work underneath that. So just keep that in mind. Once you have your key, you load your library. You copy and paste a script URL. So to be clear, this is not a library that you can download yourself. You have to use our library at this particular URL. After you have that, you will check for library load, and that is 2 lines of code. Now, this is the first option. This is what our docs show. If you do any type of PDF embed work in a SPA, single page application, using Vue.js, React, etc., whatever, it's possible that your code may run after this event has fired. Luckily, we also provide a window level variable that you could check for. So I always recommend code like what you see on screen here. If the window variable already exists, then do whatever. Otherwise, add an event listener and then do whatever again when that event is fired. After you've done that, you will initialize and load the PDF. You will copy these lines of code where you will provide a div ID that points to the place in your document where you want to render the PDF. You will include your ID. And again, this is host specific. So if somebody views source, sees your key, takes your key, copies it, and uses it, it won't work on their host. And then you essentially have a few lines of code that says, here is my URL to my PDF, and I have to give it a file name. And that is really all there is to it. And if we open this up, we can see here, this is just pretty much like what you saw in the slide deck. But I will show you this, demos, embed, test 1, just to kind of show you how it looks in line. And obviously, I could have used an external script to do it as well. This is a pure HTML example, but you can easily imagine in ColdFusion that maybe I get the location of the URL via a database query and provide it in a CF output down there of some sort. Let me maximize this. And by the way, y'all tell me if my code is too small. I just made it one size bigger, and I don't see anybody complaining, so I'm going to assume it is perfect. So that is the basic example. I mentioned that you can change the view based on your content. We have a couple of different embed types. One is called sized container, that's focused on one page at a time. One is called full window, which is a horrible name, and I've been trying for 3 years to get this renamed. It's not full window. It's basically fill up the div and then stream the content so that you can just kind of scroll down and look at page after page. We also have an inline, which will take the PDF and just stretch it out. And then we have a modal window version called Lightbox. All you do is basically add one more line of code. I guess technically this is 3, but basically specify what the embed mode should be. I built a quick demo so you can see this in action. And by the way, my CSS here is not great. It's not optimized for the content. This is very wide and not very tall. It should be a little taller. That is completely up to me. PDF embed would not have stopped me from doing better CSS. So again, this is the default full window. I mentioned the size container is focused on one page at a time, and you could see that in action here. Again, I would have done much less wide on the div, and made that a little bit taller so it's easier to read. Inline, it's going to stretch that thing out as tall as possible. Do not do this on a 100-page PDF because it will absolutely make your page incredibly tall. And for Lightbox, I'm going to show you a code pen demo. In this, we have basically some simple HTML, no PDF, but I can click a button and then the PDF shows up full screen, and either my escape button or a dedicated close button there makes it go away. So I won't show the code here because all I'm doing is tweaking a few small things, but this is all linked to from my slide deck for y'all to play with. All right. So more customization. You can do some tweaks to the UI. You can't tweak everything. Something that people ask for is, let me get back here. Oops. Let me get back here real quick, show you the PDF. So people have asked, hey, can I get rid of the Acrobat logo? Like, no, it's a free tool. We're going to advertise a little bit. So you can't turn stuff like that off, but you can do some minor modifications to the UI. You can disable print and save. Do not forget, and I hope this is obvious, if I were to disable print and save on here, I have a little device called a smartphone. You may have heard of it. I could take a picture of it, and then I could see it. I could also view source and see the URL in the code and grab the PDF there as well. You can lock things down a little bit. I'm not going to show an example of this, but you can link to a URL that requires a login so that I can't view this PDF unless I'm logged in. You can do some things to kind of protect the document, but at the end of the day, if your PDF is on the web, it's going to be on the web. So just kind of keep that in mind. You could turn off annotations and comments if you want. And we document all this, and it's really just essentially, passing a couple booleans to us in terms of how you want to tweak stuff. We give you deep integration into various events. So, for example, when a person changes pages, zooms, do searches, you can know about those events, and you can also do those events yourself. I see an interesting question by Dev. How does a modal view know not to hide your top header? Dev, if you're talking about the fact that the CSS tricks is showing up there, that is just how CSS tricks works. The entire source code is embedded within its own iframe. If this were a real web page, it would be modal over. Okay, it is a real web page. If this was off of CSS tricks, I should say, it would have taken up full screen. Cool. There's an API for actually adding annotations dynamically. You can also connect it to Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics as well and listen out for those events. As a random example of a dumb demo I have built, I have a PDF embed demo where I can select text and it translates the text to Spanish for me. So you can imagine having a PDF viewer for maybe your audience, English is not their primary language, and you want to provide translation support. You can do that via the hooks that we give you into the document. To be clear, you can do that along with a translation API. We're not providing that for you. So we have an online sandbox that lets you play with things. You can hit the customize button and actually upload your own PDF. I would like to say that this is perfect. It's not. We definitely run across PDFs from time to time that don't work good in this. Most of the time, it's somebody else's third-party provider for creating the PDF, where that third party is not doing the best work possible to create the PDFs to spec. So if you want to check first, you can do that online before you write any line, any code at all. And what's cool, even from here, you can click generate code and get your stuff. So you can play with it there. I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to hop over to the server side, which for a long time that's where I was mostly comfortable. Until the web got a lot better. In terms of our server side offerings, there are 6 core services. And actually, I think that number is wrong now. I need to check that later. We have SDKs for Java, Node, .NET, and Python. I put an asterisk by Python because Python does not support the full set of all of our APIs. However, there are REST APIs, which means you can use any language at all. And like for Python, you can not worry about the fact that the SDK doesn't support everything. I do everything in our REST-based APIs. I have given this particular talk for a couple of years now, and I used to talk about an open source project by ColdFusion community member Tony Junks, maybe saying his last name incorrect. He did some work to make our Java SDK work well under ColdFusion. There were some jar issues. Yeah, I don't do Java, but he just made it work. I appreciate what he did. I do not recommend using the Java SDK. I absolutely recommend using the REST-based APIs, and hopefully after you see the code, you will agree with me that it's pretty simple. I mentioned the free tier. That is 500 transactions per month, and I put that in quotes because we have a different definition for transactions based on what you're doing. So we have some APIs that are simple. Convert a Word document to PDF. That's trivial. So that's one transaction. We have other APIs that are a bit more intense, like our extract API that I'll be showing later. That will cost you more transactions. All of this is documented, so you can kind of clearly figure out what your cost is going to be. Finally, you will need credentials, and I'll show you that in a second. By the way, so one thing I will point out when I get deep into the actually, let me just move ahead, talk about these APIs. So our APIs broadly are marketed into different buckets, and a lot of times, I will say marketing, kind of like a bad word. One of the reasons I joined Adobe and joined this team is because I liked their marketing. As a developer, like I appreciated like how they organize stuff. So they did a great job on this. By the way, Mark Takata is asking, is there a dashboard which shows your current transaction number? Yes, there's the Adobe Developer Console. We also have a report that will break it down by API. So if you're doing 200 conversion versus 100 OCR, versus 100 something else. We do provide that data. Probably not going to show it today, but we do have that information for you. So again, APIs, a couple buckets, PDF services, document generation API, PDF extract API, PDF accessibility auto tag. We love to say PDF. You can imagine why. PDF accessibility checker. This is in beta and it's not yet released. But whereas the accessibility auto tag will attempt to make documents more accessible, the checker will try to help you figure out which ones need that. Electronic seal and Adobe Sign. So we're going to start with PDF services because this is kind of the generic Swiss Army knife set of services. This used to be known as PDF tools. So if you find an old blog post talking about PDF tools, that's what this is. And it's everything related to creation and manipulation. So breaking that down, converting Word Office documents and HTML to PDF, going from PDF to Office or text or images, combining PDFs, OCRing a PDF, compressing and linearizing a PDF, adding or modifying passwords and permissions, moving crap around, splitting a PDF, getting PDF properties, and there's probably a bit more, but pretty much like everything you can imagine would kind of fall into these buckets. As a real world practical example, you sell documents and you want to offer online a sample of your documents. A sample could be the first 5 pages of that document. You can use our API to split the PDF and get that 5 page, pages 1 to 5, and put those online. If you wanted a marketing page in front of that sample, like, hey, you're looking at a sample of blah blah. To get more, go to our website and give us money. Blah blah blah. You would use the insert stuff. So this, covers all the basic. You could think of like database CRUD type operations for working with PDFs. The general API pseudocode flow will be: I will get an access token. I will upload the asset. I will tell Adobe what I want them to do with it. I will check to see how it's doing because it's an asynchronous process, and then I will download the result from that. No matter what language you are using, .NET, Java, Node.js, ColdFusion, Python, Perl CGI script, Go, etc. This is the same flow, and all of our services follow this same format. A way, hopefully I said your name correct. So that's to support DOCX, XLSX formats. Yes, it supports the XML Office stuff and the older Office stuff as well. I'll caveat that by saying it probably wouldn't support a Word version 1 file, but definitely modern Office is all supported. You can more recently in the last 6 months or so, also support external cloud storage files as well. So you will go to our website, you will get your credentials. You do not need to give us your credit card. You are more than welcome to give me your credit card. My AC broke about 2 weeks or so ago, and I live in Louisiana, so that is a essential service. But you don't have to give us anything. You just, except for your Adobe ID, sign up, and we will give you your credentials. It will be a client ID and client secret. By the way, our authentication got significantly easier about a year ago. So if you look at an older blog post and see 5 keys, I'm not kidding. We had 5 different credentials. Wow. That is what you are seeing. That's the older authentication system. Once you have that, you do a post request. You pass that information and you get an access token back. I will show you this demo in ColdFusion. Stop offering to translate. Just no, never translate this site. That is my access token. If you steal this right now, you could do nefarious things. But the ColdFusion code for it, as you can imagine, CF HTTP. That's it. I pass in my ID, my client secret. I have a .env file using a very cool package from Order Solutions, or package management system, and I have an application.cfc that loads it, pass it in, and that's where I dumped out the access token value. All right, part 1, easy. Next, I need to create and upload an asset. And again, this is if I'm not using external cloud storage. I give Adobe a copy of my asset. Adobe does not have access to it. People ask this all the time. We can't touch it. Nobody else can. And we automatically delete it within 24 hours. I'm not showing it today, but we also have a REST API endpoint that allows you to delete that asset. So if you feel weird having something persist for 24 hours, even though only you can access it, you can definitely clean it up. Nick has a good question. Is there a matrix of free versus paid features? No, because everything is available, like period, everything. So you don't have to worry about that. Like I said, some APIs have a higher cost than others, but everything is available for you to try. Only thing not available is the accessibility checker API, which is still in beta. So once you upload it, you will get an asset ID back and the URL of where it went. I will show you an example of this. Create and upload asset.cfm. So each of my ColdFusion demos just keeps adding a couple more functions I'm not going to keep going over the previous one, so we'll just hide that. So creating and uploading an asset is a two-step process. I didn't like that, so I just made one function that does it both. But you essentially, you tell Adobe, I want to upload to you a Word document. So I pass the type, and it will give back to me a place to upload that. That is a upload URI, and then literally I just push that code up there, and that is it. Do notice that I'm using ColdFusion's baked-in file get MIME type, so I don't have to worry about remembering the super long PDF MIME type or the Word. The Office ones are very long and obtuse, so I don't have to worry about that. ColdFusion just does it for me. But if we scroll down to the usage, this is where I get my access token. I get a pointer to my file, which is a Word doc file. And then I just create my asset. And again, for our REST API, this is two steps, but you can make that a little bit simpler by just wrapping it into a ColdFusion function. So I will run this, even though it's not going to be terribly exciting, because all I'm going to do is dump out the ID value. I'll make that a little bit bigger. But this is the value that we'll use later on, like right now, and do something. So I've told Adobe, or I've given Adobe access to my Word document. I want to create a PDF out of it. So I call the endpoint, I give it the ID, and then whatever API I'm running, I give it optional arguments. So for example, in this case, I'm telling it what the source language is of my document. As you can imagine, different endpoints will have different arguments. If I'm splitting a PDF, for example, I have to tell Adobe, hey, split it pages 1 to 5 and then 6 and the rest of the document. And then if I do it correctly, I will get a job URL back. So let's look at that code. Create PDF. Again, I'm going to scroll past the stuff I've already shown you, getting my access token, creating my asset. This is the code to make the job. I used our REST-based APIs. I use CF HTTP, pass in the token. I do have to pass in my client ID again. And then my body is just my input and my arguments. And that's it. And this will return in the response header location area a URL that I can check. So all I'm doing at the end there is outputting that. So we will look at that. That should be create job, create PDF. I don't know why command box, why their built-in server doesn't alpha sort the file names. That'd be really handy. But so this is the URL, and this is what I will use going off to check the job. And I just do a post to it, and I repeat that until done. So if we do that, check job, and again, I'm right here. I'm skipping past the authentication, the upload, making the job, and all I'm doing is hitting that URL and then returning the response. I did a very simple little loop here where I looped I sleep for 2 seconds to give it some time. By the way, every API will run at a different speed. How long it takes will depend on how much data you're sending back and forth. This job, we'll run it. You can see how fast it runs. Get job, check job.cfm. And it's in progress, so 2 seconds and done. Other endpoints will run a little bit slower depending on how complex they are. And notice there, download URI, that is what we're going to use to grab it. And no auth is required. I just grabbed the data. And if we do a full demo here, create PDF complete, I will show you. First, here's my download asset. I basically pass the result from the job, and in there it has a download URI, and I send it a path, and that is it. So my code, ignoring my functions, get my access token, upload it to Adobe, create that job, loop over, until it's done, and then when it's done, I save the result. So if we run this, create PDF complete, you'll get a rough idea of how long these things take. Now, I will say typically, like as you could probably imagine, this is going to be done probably not in a web page. It could be done via a scheduled task in ColdFusion, or it could be done when a user has uploaded a Word document and you're running code in the back end and you send a result back via over Ajax. You would typically not dump out all these results, but it is done. If I were to open that PDF, where is it? Cats.pdf. I'm not going to bother uploading the original Word document because it was essentially this. But I will pause to drink some water, see if I have any questions, and I do not. So I will carry on. So just to recap, you take your creds, you exchange it for an access token. And in my scripts, they're all kind of like one-offs. You can imagine having a CFC that's in the application scope, that when you initialize your application, you get that access token. Because we tell you when it expires, you can know that and programmatically handle that behind the scenes. So you're not getting an access token every time you do a random PDF operation. You will create and upload assets. Again, not required because now we support cloud-based storage as well. You will start your job, you will check the status, and then you will download. Every single other API and or endpoint does this, period. It's very, very simple, which is nice. Now, I mentioned external support. We support SharePoint, Dropbox, Azure Blob, and S3. It's not supported for all the API endpoints yet. It absolutely will be. I can't tell you when, but it's going to happen. And I will also point out, if you're using cloud storage that's not on here, you can still support it. You would need to write code that would get the file from the unsupported cloud storage, download it to your CF server, put it somewhere temporary, then upload it back to us. It's not going to be ideal. It'll be a little bit slower, but you can support those other systems as well. Honestly, I'm not sure what else is out there that's not there. Google, I know, has theirs, but I believe they follow the S3 protocol. So same things kind of work. You have to make the links for input and output yourself. So what that means is if you have used S3, if you have used Dropbox, they all have SDKs and APIs that say, take an asset and create a publicly readable URL from it. We don't do that for you. You have to do that yourself. But once you do that, you give it to our API. Now, I am absolutely rusty with ColdFusion, but from what I remember, there was really good support for cloud storage providers and getting these links. So this could be all kind of baked into ColdFusion for you. And then check the status. By the way, you don't have to always check the status. If you're batch converting Word documents to PDF, you can just assume that it worked. I wouldn't necessarily recommend not caring about the status, but you can. And if you don't want to check the status, about a month or so ago, we added webhook support. So it does not yet work with PDF properties or external support. I can tell you that's being fixed very, very soon. And you can look at our docs, and I have a blog post that shows an example of this. But it works like any other webhook out there. You tell the API, hey, hit this webhook when you're done, and here's the URL. And then you ensure that you have something in there that responds to that webhook. So Away is asking, does PDF service come built in with CF standard? To be clear, this is a completely separate project from ColdFusion, or product than ColdFusion. This is not a ColdFusion offering. This is, much like Photoshop. You don't get Photoshop when you buy ColdFusion. When you buy a Photoshop, you don't get ColdFusion. Completely separate. ColdFusion has baked in PDF stuff that is really good. So I say that, like, you may not need our APIs. I think some of the stuff coming up later is not supported by ColdFusion natively, and you may find that you have a need for it. Mike is asking, I heard webhook is already available or will be. Webhook is available now. You can't do webhooks with external storage. So if I wanted PDF services to convert a Word document on S3 to an output on S3, I can't do webhook with that. I apologize if it's a bit weird. It bugged me when we released it like this. We're fixing it. It's going to be supported kind of all over the place soon-ish. So, quick reminder, this used to be called PDF tools. So if you find old documentation, marketing, whatever, that's what it's referring to. You can also chain stuff. I didn't show an example of this, but because we have assets that we're storing for you while we work, you can give us a document, a PDF document, say, hey, do OCR on it. And then when you're done with that result, use that same result to do password protect and then download the bits. This is only supported in the REST-based APIs, not the SDKs yet. So the REST APIs, again, in my opinion, are so much more powerful than the SDKs, at least currently. Next feature I want to talk about is document generation. This is dynamic document creation at scale. This is where you will use a Word document as a template. Our API will take your document and your data and output a dynamic PDF or dynamic Word document. So what that means is I could open up Word and I could type crap in, right? I could do all my marketing, my corporate headers and stuff like that. And then I literally replace it with variable tokens. You see an example right there on screen. I then take that Word document, I send it to Adobe, and I send my data, which could be from a ColdFusion query, from any other dynamic set of information. And then I get a dynamic PDF generated from this. So if you're thinking, hey, I need to send PDF invoices, I need to send expense reports, I need to send any kind of dynamically created document, this is absolutely for you. The language that it uses is based on an open source project called JSONata, and you can go to that website and look at the docs. You can do looping, conditional, and formatting functions. So literally within Word, you could say, hey, I'm going to be sending you an array of information. I want you to loop over that. For an offer letter, for example, it could be a list of benefits that you're getting. And your data really means anything. So I mentioned a ColdFusion query. It could be data in a CSV file in your file system. We don't care where you get it. You just send it to us and we merge that with your Word document to output something. So I'm going to skip to an online demo instead of showing you locally, because the online demos, if you've ever seen my demos, it's all cat stupid stuff. It's so dumb. I will say our team did a great job of doing like official enterprise type demos. So sales agreements, invoices, etc. And it's all web based. So I love to write code, but I love a good web based demo, so I can kind of see how things work before I write code. So I can literally go into an invoice, click continue. I could see the sample data for the invoice, and I could see my pseudo Word document. We're using PDF here, but it's highlighting all the variables that will get replaced at runtime with this real data. And by the way, this table here, this will be dynamic. And I can click generate document and it will send it. It will generate a final document of real information. We support things like images. So you can definitely have invoice with pictures of products and stuff like that. We support tables that are horizontal and not vertical. It's really kind of powerful, and I find it really cool that it uses Word as endpoint, as input. I find that kind of fun. I will say our Word support, we have a Office add-in that allows you to test within Word. So when I have more time and I could do like a lot more on DocGen, I don't write code. Like, why bother? I open up Word, I write in there, And using our add-in, I can do tests and iterations from that. Mike is asking his question about the quality of PDFs. Is it possible to determine the PDF for high resolution PDF? I am 90% sure that the PDF properties API will return the DPI. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that is some of the properties that you get back. And that did not answer your question, just let me know. I love pausing for questions so I could take some water. Okay, away. I'm not going to handle that because that's CF specific. So I mentioned that we have other APIs that are a bit more expensive. Extract is an example of that. That's because it does some really high level, powerful stuff powered by AI and ML. Everything has to be powered by AI and machine language. That's a rule now. I'm sorry, that's just the future. It returns a heck of a lot of data about a PDF document. It can also return images from a PDF document and tabular information in data. So it can return a picture of a table. I'm not sure why you would want that, but it actually take your information, your tables in a PDF and give it to you as a CSV or XLSX. By the way, what does that mean? If you have a lot of information in PDF, you may be thinking, "Oh, that's great, right? It's no longer paper; it's electronic." PDFs are easy to open, right? I can open a PDF even without Acrobat Reader. Don't tell marketing I said that. I can open it and look. It's great. If you have a million or let's say a billion PDFs, that's a problem. You're not killing trees for that, but if you need to find out what's in there, you're not going to open a billion PDFs and look at each one. This is where Extract comes in and makes that a lot easier. So the data it returns is pretty complex. We have a visualizer that shows you on the left, I have a PDF, terribly exciting PDF. And on the right, we have JSON output that's formatted a bit nicer. And what happens is that you can actually click on here and see, oh, that's a picture. And this is how it looks in JSON. And you can see the exact position on the screen. I can see the file paths. If I were to go into introduction, I could see where it is. I could see what font it is. I can see like a DOM path to it as well. I can see the text and multiple attributes like the line height. We are giving you everything possible about this particular PDF document. So let's look at a quick example of this. And let me close this and get back to, I have too many demos. Extract one. So this, I'm not going to show you all this code because it's the same code. I mentioned all our APIs, same idea. Get an access token, upload and create and upload the asset, start the job. In this case, I'm basically saying, hey, here's a PDF, extract it, check the job, and then when done, download it. Extract is a little bit more complex in terms of what it returns. You can get just the JSON back, or you can get a zip file that has the JSON, that has any images, and that has any tables in it as well. I am not going to run this because it's going to be pretty boring. It's just going to output all done. But I want to show you an example of what it outputs because it's crazy. Here's the JSON, and that's a wall of text. So we will format that. And from that one document, I got 48,000, close to 49,000 lines of JSON because a PDF can be very, very complex. Typically, what you will do is that you will extract and then you'll do crap with it, but you won't keep extracting. You'll save that result and use it again. So as an example, oh, not the node one. Sorry about that. Sorry to cheat on you, ColdFusion. extract 1a.cfm. So in my ColdFusion file, I can read in that JSON, I can parse it, and then I could do things like, give me all the text from it. All right. So not every element in a PDF is going to be text. Some are images. So I do a little bit of filtering. And then all I do is spit out all the text at the end. Extract 1A. There we go. And we will see this is the PDF, including things like table of contents and all of the text. Something that could be a little bit more useful is I could actually get just the headers. In this case, just H1 headers. So imagine that scenario. You have a billion PDFs. If you extract just the headers, you can index the headers and use that to provide for searching. So I will run that one, extract 1B, and there are the headers to that PDF. And literally all it's doing is taking JSON and just filtering information out. Ali is asking, does the free version of the API do HTML conversion to PDF? Yes. When I talked about conversion to PDF, I focused on Office, but it also supports HTML to PDF as well. Jeff is saying, if I scan a paper form and make it PDF, will it pull out the fields for me? Jeff, thank you for asking that question. Currently, we do not. Well, all right, this is a complex answer. We don't have an API to just pull out the form fields. We definitely have an API to OCR. Extract will see form fields and form data. But typically when people ask, they're looking for hey, here's a PDF, give me the form information. We do not have a simple API like that. And trust me, I know that we need it. So the answer is no. Jeff, if you were to OCR, I do not believe extract would get the form values because it didn't start, because the document did not start off as a PDF form. I think OCR will work great on it. I don't believe, and you would have to test how it extracted. By the way, the extract visualizer that I showed lets you upload a PDF document. So don't listen to me. Hit the visualizer and I'll share those links and you could get the result back. Sidwing has a REST been approved, certified for handling documents with PII. I do not have the answer to that. I do know we link to it in our FAQ, and I will try to share a link to that. I'll be honest, I don't pay a lot of attention to like the government security stuff because I find it boring. I know it's not boring for a lot of people, but I know that we document that in our FAQ for the specific certifications that we have. That's my lazy way of saying check the doc, Sid. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree it's necessary. It should be covered in the FAQ. If you don't find it, please let me know. Yeah, Jeff. So the field names, if it's in the PDF on that scanned document, it should show up. So I believe that would work for you. Again, the online tool, it will dump out that data, so you could see pretty quickly. Like as soon as I'm done talking, hit that visualizer and see how it looks. If you have any trouble, you have my email address. I know because we've spoken many times in the past. Feel free to reach out to me. All right. Ooh, I'm going fast because I got about 10 minutes left. PDF accessibility auto tag, again, powered by AI and ML. It attempts to automatically add accessibility tags to tables, paragraphs, lists, and headings, as well as identifying reading order. It will give you a report. And the most important thing I can say, it is absolutely not meant to be 100% solution. It is meant to be used along with humans who are doing accessibility work to cover a good chunk of the grunt work to let a human then come in and do the proper final work for you. I think officially, maybe unofficially, we say about 80% of the work for you. So it could save a tremendous amount of time. but it's absolutely meant to be used with others. We do have an online demo. I'm not going to run it for you, but you can log in, take your PDF, test it, and see the result. We give you the tagged PDF back as well as a Excel report that tells you we did A, B, and C to your document so you can see how well it worked. Sealing, another part of the PDF process. It seals the PDF. Essentially, the way that I understand it, a Adobe signed document means that Ray Camden signed this document. A sealed document means that Adobe certifies this document came from them. It's more of a corporate level ownership versus a individual person signing a particular thing. Oh, I forgot. I did bullet points on that. This works with different credential providers based on how you have your sealing set up. Our part is pretty easy. Getting the credentials is going to be a little bit more difficult based on who you work with. Again, though, it's just going to be an API. So our part is pretty simple. If you've never seen a sealed PDF, I'll be honest, I had never seen one until we added this API and I started doing demos. But this is how it will look. Once again, we have an online tool that lets you open up a PDF. We will seal it with a demo company, not your company. You can't use this as skip paying us, but you can see how it will look. All right, so we do have a main site, obviously. Sid, specifically, I want to help you. Under resources, we have our tech support and sales fact, and those certifications should be there. Again, if not, let me know. We also have support forums. We're on Stack Overflow, but not quite. I check it, but we don't have a lot of traffic there. In the next 3 minutes, I will cover Sign. It is our e-signature solution, and it allows automation. You can. I'm going to skip over all this because it's boring credential type stuff. But I will say, in ColdFusion, I had never used the API until I gave this presentation for the first time. And I checked the docs, and within half hour, it worked. So it just ran. And in the repository that you can get my sample code, if you need an example of how to send a PDF off to be signed, 35 lines of code, 36, incredibly simple. And then once you've done that, it will show up in the person's email saying, hey, you need to sign a document. All right, so I threw a lot at you. Keep in mind that we have all these different services. Every single one works the same way. So like once you've done an OCR job, if you need to convert PDF to Word, you're literally changing like one endpoint, and looking at the docs on the arguments that it requires. But outside of that, like all that code to get the access token, all that, you just keep using it. In fact, I'm pretty sure I built a simple CFC component and blogged about it a couple weeks ago that you could take and run with. All right, I finished with 5 minutes to spare. And I'm going to try to scroll back to see if I missed anything. TJ, you said if OCR is separate, does it work with the main API? To be clear, we don't have like a main API. We have a bunch of APIs. OCR is an API. Word to PDF is an API. It's one thing it's one product from Adobe's perspective. So one set of credentials for the free tier, for the paid tier, it's one offering. But it's different APIs for each. If that doesn't make sense, let me know. Benjamin Neal is asking, will the accessibility auto tag feature use only standard Acrobat document structured tags and not include non-standard tags that you occasionally see when converting MS Word docs? As far as I know, it's only going to be standard things. And again, we are only doing what I mentioned. So identifying a reading order, tables, and lists. And again, we dump all that out in a report. And absolutely pay attention to this. you must have that human come in, take the document that we did the grunt work, and make it final and make sure it's legally accessible. Bill Brutzman, can I inject data into an Acrobat template instead of Word like I did with Lifecycle Designer? No, no. The document generation is Word to PDF. There's a caveat to that, that Adobe Sign uh, does have some dynamic aspects up to it where you can send information. So, like when I send a document to Ray Camden to sign, I can include information like you are signing a document saying that you are buying X, like a certain product. So, kind of partially in there. Mike, is there a size limit for JSON for very complex PDF? We have size limits for input, not for not for extracts JSON output. If you tell us to extract something and it's within our limits, we're going to send you stuff, and we don't limit the JSON, so it could be big. In general, we don't have limits on the output. There are some rules, like for splitting a PDF, we cap it at 20 PDFs. So if you have a 100-page PDF, you can't split that into one-page segments of 100 PDFs. You can't unless you do math. And you're like, oh, I want single pages each, and it's 100 pages each. So I'm going to batch and do pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 19, and then the 20th PDF, it's pages 20 to 100, and then I'm going to run it again. And hopefully that made sense. Oh, I have a reminder. I can give something away, and I have no questions. $50 Amazon gift certificate that I get to pick the method of my choice. Whoever gives me the most praise is the winner. No, I'm kidding. How about this? I'm going to pick up an action figure, and hopefully it'll be clear. And the first person who says the name gets the $50 thing. So I'm going to make this as clear as possible and try to show you a couple sides. By the way, this is Optimus Prime. You fail, Soundwave. Melissa got it. Those of you who said Optimus Prime, shame. Shame on all of you. But Melissa, you have one. And Mark, I assume that y'all will handle. There you go. All right, perfect. Melissa, you are now my favorite person. And that's all I have. If I don't see any more questions, thank y'all for listening to me.